We're back on Sun Devil Extra, and the focus this week is on volleyball because after seemingly being on the road forever, the ASU volleyball team finally comes home to Desert Financial Arena for their own tournament this weekend, which will start Thursday over next door at Desert Financial Arena. And the outstanding head coach of ASU volleyball, J.J. Van Niel, joins us. It's going to feel, I want to get to last weekend in a minute, but it's got to feel awfully good to think I don't have to get on a plane to go play a match this weekend.
We're really excited to be home. We get to play in front of our fans. We get to sleep on our own bed. It's interesting because whenever you set the schedule, like this year, we had pretty cool trips. We get to go to San Diego,
Right.
Nashville, which I love, and then Lincoln, Nebraska, which playing there is, of course, always fun. But I remember last week, as we were boarding the plane, I'm like, all right, I'm ready to be home. You know, on paper it sounds really fun, but the back and forth it kind of wears on you. So it'll be really nice to get home.
You ever had an instance where you didn't know what town you were in?
I frequently only know the next person I play and don't pay attention very much at all. So my staff would probably say yes all the time.
I've had a couple of instances where I had to look out the window and say I'm in Charlotte, but that's life in athletics. Yep. Listen, despite having to do all the traveling, the team is off to a fantastic start. The loss to Nebraska didn't bother me that much because they're the number 5 team in the country. You're playing in front of 9,000 people in their building. So yeah, you don't want to lose a match, but you had some takeaways out of that, didn't you?
For sure. I was definitely not pleased when I left the match. One of the things I rarely do is talk to the team after a match because the reality is your brain remembers outliers, not averages. Right. And so, of course, I remembered all the missed opportunities. But I went back and I watched the whole match again, and we did a bunch of things really, really well. The second set, really had a shot to win that one. We were with them a lot. We did a bunch of stuff really well, and then I learned a lot, and our staff learned a lot about just some kind of areas that we can get a little better at. So it's exciting, and it's, of course, playing in front of 9,000 people. It's good. It's really, really fun experience.
Yeah, and we've been joking that ASU's first match in their tournament this weekend will be the Sparky Kids Go to College match, which usually means thousands upon thousands of grade school kids making as much noise as humanly possible, which is fun. And I kind of joked, we're going to have Claire Jeter on a little bit later in the show. It's great going to Nebraska and playing in front of 9,000 people. It's just the ideal preparation for Sparky Kids Go to College Day. The other, you've got Prairie View A&M, Memphis, and Montana State coming in this weekend. I know that any year you set up a non-conference schedule, you want to get a variety of different styles of play to look at before you go into conference. You feel comfortable with the way you've had set up this schedule?
Yeah, I felt like we've gotten a pretty good diversity of teams, of styles. Obviously, Nebraska is the most physical that will play. This weekend's interesting because these teams run a lot of there's a lot of chaos that'll be in front of our blockers, so I think it'll be really good for us to prepare for a couple of the conference teams that we play. So, yeah, I'm pleased with our schedule and excited to finish at home, and then we get ready for Big 12 play.
Yeah, it's amazing how quickly it jumps up on you that after this weekend, it's right into conference. Individually, and I know we don't try to necessarily put one student athlete above the other, but individuals that you've been pleased with so far this year.
I think you have Claire on, and Claire's been pretty consistently awesome. I would say she's probably been her and Mary have probably been the two most consistent, just like every match they're coming out and just really doing not just their job, but like a really good version of their job. But all the starting group has had some moments where you're like, really, really impressive. Jelly was phenomenal against Nebraska. I really feel like this team, when we can get everyone playing like their best game together, we can beat almost anyone. So we just got to get them all doing it at the same time. But,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And up until Nebraska, you had beaten everyone off to just a terrific start this year. it's year 2, and I've always, as I've observed college programs, different sports, the second year tends to be where you really see the imprint of the coaching staff, because now you're getting more of a roster that you've selected rather than some student athletes you've inherited. And so when fans come to Desert Financial or come to Mullet Arena this year, are they going to see not necessarily a different style of play, but they'll see more of the things that you emphasize kind of come to the forefront, right?
Yeah, I think it'll be a very similar product. We run a pretty fast offense. We're a very scrappy team. I feel like we're a very tough serving team, a good ball control team. I think one of the unique things that I walked into was a pretty small roster when I got here.
Yeah.
So I feel like, and honestly, like just some of the most wonderful kids I've ever gotten to coach. The buy-in from the day I walked in the door has just been phenomenal. So I feel like it's our staff's program since we've walked in the door, and you should see much the same this year as what we had last year.
I know you.
Except we don't have a lefty, first team All-American lefty.
But you can work on that. I know that analytics is a big part of your game match preparation. Yeah. And you just mentioned serving. I think that's one of the underrated parts of volleyball is how well you serve, because you're immediately putting the opponent somewhat on the defensive if you do it correctly. How do you use analytics to determine what you want to do in serving against a given opponent?
We of course stat a bunch of things, so we're always looking at that, and we spend a lot of time thinking about our serving matchups, probably more so than anywhere else I've ever been. Ellen does a phenomenal job with that. She's one of my assistants, and I've always had, the analytics are really interesting, because if you look at like serving correlating with winning, maybe it doesn't, but I think volleyball is just a weird sport, because the flip side of that is if you're not serving them tough, they're going to be in system. It's very hard to defend. In fact, one of the things we have to get better at is against Nebraska, we actually served better than I thought during the match when I watched the video. We just didn't take advantage of it the way we needed to defensively. So I think the serve sets it up, and then we have to go capture the advantage. So, but we look at all kinds of serving numbers, but I think probably one of the ones that we look at the most is how often we're knocking a team what we call out of system. So we either get an ace, they overpass it, or they pass out of system way
out of position,
yeah,
basically.
Yeah.
So that's something fans can concentrate on this weekend. There'll be matches Thursday, Friday, Saturday at Desert Financial. Yep. Friday will be an evening match for those of you, and Saturday's at noon. And look, take your phone with you. You can listen to our pregame on the radio, listen to radio broadcasts, go to ESPN Plus, and watch the volleyball. See how that works out? Yes. It works out perfectly. Before we go, and I guess every coach at Arizona State could be asked this year, the move to the Big 12. Yeah. Obviously, you started kind of looking at opponents last year, probably, or shortly after the NCAA tournament. How difficult a process has that been, just trying to get a handle on what each team likes to do?
It's obviously not the same as the Pac-12 when you're, especially for as long as I was in that conference, I kind of knew everyone, how they did. But luckily, Sean McDonald, who's one of my assistants, was at Houston last year. Mm-hmm. That's nice. He's already has a really good feel. But you watch video, you kind of get a good feel. You already know the players a little bit. Nowadays with the portal, I think it's still a little wild with how much teams will change. So you got to continue to stay up to speed and know who they got, because one player makes a massive difference, especially in volleyball.
Yeah, with the portal, changing it's conferences, it's kind of almost negated, because you're changing every team changes personnel. Well, listen, I'm delighted for you. I congratulate you on a terrific start to the season. And I also congratulate you on being able to unpack. Because you guys really have been living out of a suitcase. And enjoy this weekend at the tournament. right into at least with the Big 12 opener. I believe it's Utah, and you've got an opponent.
We
or am I looking too far ahead?
It's 2 weeks. Yeah, we have to travel again. We go to TCU and Baylor. So
all right, two opponents you don't know, but just the same. I mean, it's all right to jump right into Big 12 play after a nice weekend at home. Coach, great to see you. Good luck this weekend out at Desert Financial.
Thank you.
And we'll
Thanks
see
for
you down
having
the
me.
road.
Appreciate it.
Head coach J.J. Van Niel of ASU Volleyball. Now, we're not done talking volleyball. One of his most important players, and she plays a really important position on the court, the middle blocker, Claire Jeter, joins us next. And I'll just give you a little spoiler. She wants to coach, so she's been taking notes on this guy. We'll talk about that next.